Welcome to War Thunder with Subdude. How y'all doing today? Well, just finished this match here with the A-10A late Warhog. I like the plane, but what I don't like is the plane in this game as it sits. And yep, we got some real whiz-bangs flying around today, like that F-100 pilot. And the reason I don't like it is because this is a plane that requires air superiority. And when I say it requires air superiority, I mean it requires everyone to be on the same page. That means the fighters are supposed to cover the attackers and bombers. Guess what does not happen in War Thunder? Fighters don't give a flip about attackers and bombers. Matter of fact, they'd be most happy if they were the only ones in the match. I get that. I do understand that. They're rather on the selfish side. They're only in it for themselves. They really don't care about anything beyond their computer screen. I get that. Now, occasionally we'll have a team of people from the same squadron that are all playing together. That's great. I can appreciate that. 90% of the time it's on the enemy's team and they're hunting us down one by one by one by one by one. And it's really frustrating, you know, especially if you've got 3 or 4 fighters working in conjunction with each other, just literally destroying the enemy team. That's understandable. Annoying, but understandable. However, when you've got a team where you've got a bunch of A-10s and then some fighters, and the fighters do not pay any attention whatsoever to making sure that the attack group is covered. In my case, I'm glad they didn't. I just took off and went in a direction where the fighters weren't. Because unfortunately, most fighter pilots race directly at the other air base to get engaged with the enemy fighters. Yeah, that's not really smart. But that's how these players play. I want to get in there and get. And yeah, you sound like Joe Biden. You're not very coherent. Now, I know I'm disparaging other players in this game. And actually, this one didn't turn out too bad. We won. But one of the things that I just absolutely despise is the fact that we do not get any cover. Again, the A-10, the A-7, the A-4, the Buccaneer, the Jaguars, the Su-22s, the Su-7s, the Su-17s, the whatever the Chinese are flying, they're attack platforms. They're ground attack platforms. They're not air-to-air platforms. They can hum the tune, but that's not their primary job. Whereas a MiG-21, an F-5, an F-4, English Electric Lightning, and the lot, the Mirages, all of them, including the F-1. Those are planes that are designed for air-to-air combat. They are designed to take on the enemy fighters and to escort these slow attack aircraft. The problem is they leave the attack aircraft to their own devices, and one comment I heard, which I laughed until I couldn't laugh anymore. This player said, "You got missiles, use them." I'm like, oh, yes, you're so right. I've got missiles. But here's the problem. I have to get my nose on target with the missile activated, and the missile has to be within a certain range to be able to get the enemy plane. Well, you got a gun. Yeah, you're right. I've got a gun. But again, I have to be able to get the nose on target. These attack aircraft are not nimble fighters. The A-10 is not a fighter. That's why it has an A in its prefix, not an F. Yes, it can turn tight. Yes, it can carry a massive ordnance load, including air-to-air missiles, which are all aspect. That does not make it a fighter. It is an attack aircraft, a strike aircraft, a mud mover. And as a mud mover, it needs cover. Now, I've got 480 flares and chaff. I can sit there and pop them out all day long. And somebody can waste a whole lot of missiles trying to shoot me down with just missiles. But that isn't going to stop them from making a high-speed pass at me with guns. Unless they don't have a gun. And if they haven't got a gun, well, for them, that's a problem. Not so much for me. And off with the rest of the bombs. Yay! Now it's time to run for home. At a whopping 340 miles an hour. Whoa! Yeah. This plane was designed to go over a battlefield and pretty much hover. It's a loitering aircraft. It's designed to sit there on top of the enemy, pounding him into submission. That means guns on, bombs on, rockets on, missiles on. This plane is designed to deal out large amounts of damage to ground targets. It's not a fighter. The A-7 is not a fighter. It is a ground pounder. And I don't care which version of it you are flying. You could be flying the Air Force version or the Navy version. The same goes with the A-4. The A-4 is a light attack aircraft. Yes, it can carry a pretty good-sized bomb load for a light attack aircraft. But it's still a light attack aircraft, not a bomber, not a fighter. Most decidedly not a fighter. I've got quite a few kills with an A-4. I've got quite a few kills with an A-7. And those are air-to-air kills. But they're mostly from people who are not paying attention. And I'll sneak a missile up their tailpipe. Or I'll hit them with a 20mm Gatling gun. And it's gotten really hard to kill anybody with the A-4 because the A-4 is, one, loses its speed like a mad dog once you go into a turn. And two, it's only got the AIM-9Bs, which are absolutely horrible. And 200 rounds of 20mm, unless you're carrying a gun pod, and then you've got a gun pod you're slinging around. That's not a lot of fun. Makes the plane rather heavy. Now, I like this plane. I like the A-10 a lot. And that's a recon aircraft that I think I'm going to try and go after. It's an IL-28. And doesn't appear to be any enemies around, so we're just going to take up. And I know that that plane does donuts over the battlefield. And it doing donuts is a good thing. That means it's going to be right where I want it to be when it's time to shoot. And we're getting right into that point where the heat seeker locks on and missile away. And knockout. Now it's just time to go land. Pray that nobody comes up behind me. When you're flying something as slow as an A-10, you really have to be absolutely paranoid about being jumped by fighters. Now, the A-10 pilots that had to fly over places like Iraq and Afghanistan, they didn't have a whole lot to worry about. Over Iraq, they had F-15s, F-16s, Tornadoes, Mirages, I guess, all watching over them. If you were in an A-10, you were pretty much guaranteed you were not going to have to worry about enemy aircraft. In Afghanistan, you didn't have to worry about aircraft at all. You were basically in the sky alone. Your biggest worry was ground fire. And with the ruggedness of the A-10, yeah, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Now you gotta remember, some of these A-10s, especially in Iraq, they would come back missing huge sections of the aircraft. Missing engines, missing pieces of their tail, missing part of a wing. Huge gaping holes. And the planes just kept flying. Unfortunately, in War Thunder, somebody comes by and does a little brip brip of 30 mil or 20 mil or 23 mil, and you might as well just basically kiss your plane goodbye, because it's going to tear it apart. Now, I will admit, I have flown my A-10 home on half a wing. One full wing on the right-hand side, half a wing on the left-hand side. I made it home and I did a belly landing and I repaired and flew out again. But, again, this is an attack aircraft, not a fighter. And players in War Thunder choose not to help the ground force attackers. It doesn't earn them any points if they're protecting fighters or attackers or anything else, which is why they don't do it. There needs to be a change where players who escort attack groups get recognized for doing their job. But Gaijin isn't giving us that recognition right now. So, what am I up to do? Rearm, take off again. And the good part is I've got an F-100 out in front of me and I've got an F-4 out in front of me. And an F-5. They're all out in front of me. They're all going to run into the enemy fighters long before I do. And again, I'm loaded up for base killing. And again, the reason I'm going base killing is because killing bases is probably the least stressful of trying to fly this plane. And thank God it's on a map the size of Vietnam. I would not fly this on smaller maps. And I don't fly it on small maps. Small maps are this plane's bane. You're slow, you're low, and you're basically fighter meat. They want you, they can get you. They're faster, more maneuverable, and no matter how heavily armed you think this plane is, they're better armed. They have look-down, shoot-down radar. They have heat seekers. And no matter how many flares and chaff you have, if you don't see it coming, that's all there is to it. Well, I'm pretty much done talking, so we're going to let this play out. And y'all have a pleasant today, a better tomorrow. We'll catch you in the sky in Air Realistic on the good maps, of which Enduring Confrontation are the only ones worth flying on. Take care, folks. Bub-doo.